Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to prepare my second complete video, and this video is about the Python classes and its implementation. So if you have not seen my previous videos, please go ahead and see them after this video. Please provide your suggestions if you want me to make a video on any topic in the comment section. Thank you guys. As you know, uh, class is an object-oriented programming concept, and similar to other languages in Python also, you define a class using class keyword. Let's define it. Let's define it my class. Now, if you have worked on Java or C, you must have heard about the constructor. Here we define constructor as an init. If you don't define it, if you don't define the init method within the class, by default an empty init method will be defined by the Python. Okay guys, let's take a variable. Let's define a variable x equals to 2. Okay, so this is the method that we have defined within the class. Okay, let's compile and see. Here you can see the class has been compiled successfully. Now let's create an object of a class. What is an object? A class is an object is a reference to a class. Like in Java or any other object-oriented language, you create an object of a class, then you use the properties of the class to to utilize the properties of the class. Similarly, in Python, create an object a, or rather obj, like this. See guys, I have not passed any arguments here because my constructor is not taking any argument. Now let's do print, sorry, obj dot x. Let's see. Here you can see the error came. The type init takes zero positional argument, but one was given. I'll tell you what. Unlike from other programming languages, class we have to provide a self keyword which contains the reference of the objects of the class. So this is similar to the this in Java, the this keyword that is used in Java, but here it is mandatory to define the self keyword across each methods of a class. Now let's run this code. Okay, so what it is saying, we have added a self here, but still it is saying my object does not have an attribute x. Why is it saying that? Because self contains the reference of all the objects, and we are initializing x without the self. That means x is just local to this class. For keeping this as a class variable, we have to add self before the variable name. Let's run and see guys. Here you can see now it has printed 2. So until now what you have identified, uh, you understood how to define a class, what is the use of self variable, and how to define a constructor within the class. Okay guys, let's move on to the next topic. Before we move on, this all comes under scoping. So if you want to define a variable and use it within the class, and that variable is private to the class, you don't need to add self here. Let me demonstrate that as well. Let's define a variable y is equals to 4. Okay, and we are not going to use y. We can directly use y here as well. I have initialized y as 4, and now during the constructor I am assigning x variable which is public using y into 2. So the scope of y is only this class, while x can be accessed using the class object because it contains the reference. Okay, let's run it. Name y is not defined. Now y is not defined. The scope of y ends here. So for the scoping purpose, you have to add y here. Okay. And now you can see it. So now I have covered the scope as well, right? So the scope of a variable, if you are not attaching the self keyword, will be within that method or within that uh, a lambda or anything else, right? So until and unless you append self, it cannot be accessed by the uh, objects of the class as well as the methods of the class. Okay, this is an important concept, guys. Don't forget it. Let me tell you how can you initialize the object with a parameterized constructor. Let's say you don't want to hard code that the x value and you want it to be two times of the value that is being passed. You can define it in the constructor, and here you can pass it. Let's assume we are passing 10. So if when we are passing 10 here, this 10 value will be passed to y because the constructor of the respective class will be invoked. Here you can see 20 is printed because this 10 is appended here. So we have a class, we have its constructor. Now let's define some methods within the class. Now let's assume that you want to add a square method which will return the square of the initialized value, right? Let's define method. As I said, if we have to pass a reference, this method will return x into x. Okay. We have a print object that is printing. Now let's call this method. Point to note here, we have already initialized the class object with the value 10. So the value of x here is 20. Sorry guys. Here again the same problem that I did earlier. Here I have supposed to return self products into self products. Here you can see first 20 is printed, which is the value of x, then the value of its square. Okay guys, this is how you can add as many methods as you want within the class, like in Java we do. Okay, you can have one more method, you can have so many methods within this function. Also, you should ideally not call the init method explicitly, as whenever you are creating the instance of a class, it gets called. Okay, it gets called internally, so you don't need to write a separate. You don't need to call it explicitly. Although, if you want to have, if you want to if you want to do anything special during the initialization, I would recommend writing within the init as well. Everything within the init. Now guys, let us define some private methods or private variables of this class. You can have private variables within the class. Let's have a private variable with name. Let's have a private variable with name z. Now how do you define a private variable? You are defining a private variable using, okay, this is a private variable, and you cannot you can access it from outside, but whenever you are doing it, unlike in Java, so Java you cannot access private variables outside. Let's see here it is saying my class object has no attribute and doesn't score y because you cannot directly access it from outside the class, but we can do that within the class. Oh, sorry. Here you go, it is printed. So with the two underscores, you define a private variable. Similarly, with two underscores at the start, you can also define a private method which cannot be accessed from the outside. This is similar to the private accessor in Java. Now, guys, let's move on to one more concept of object-oriented programming, which is the inheritance. Let's define a base class. And we can use the inheritance like this. Compile and see if our classes gets compiled. See, so now my class has the properties of the base class as well. Let's create an object of my class. Something went bad, guys. Sorry guys, I was using the constructor of the base class, that is why it is giving me error. Now you can see, so when we have used the inheritance for my class, which is inheriting the properties of the base class, when I call the double method u of the base class using the object of the my class, it gets printed. So this is the inheritance in Python. You can use multiple inheritance as well. You can use multiple classes to inherit their properties. Okay. Also, one more thing, if you want to see how to what is the type of this object, suppose you are debugging something and you don't know this variable belongs to which object, you can use the type property to give you. Okay, so it will give you that it is an object of the type main class. Let's see if it gives the type of the class name as well. So yeah, so have you seen the difference? Let me tell you. Here you can see. So when I search the type of the class, my class, it gives that it is of class type. And when I search the type of the object, it gives that it is of the type main dot my class. So in this way, you can identify whether it is a class or it is a an object. Okay. So guys, now one last thing for this video. How can you define static methods in Python? So as you know, there are two types of methods within the classes, the class methods and the static methods. You can define the static method using the keyword static method. Let's define the base classes methods to be static method. Now this, while defining a static method, you should never include the self keyword because that does not need a reference of the class object. We can directly access this using the class. Okay. So now let's directly print this base class dot double. We call this method and run it. Here you go. The 20 is printed. This is how you define a static method. If you are not defining a if you're not defining this keyword over a method, it will be by default a class method. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, do like and subscribe. Also watch other videos of Python uh, in my channel, and if you have something to share or some topics, some suggestions, please do it in the comment section. Thank you guys. Bye bye.